It's chaos.
It's a different type of Sunday scary.
It's your newest obsession.
It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast.
We're the Hornsby sisters. I'm Katie.
And I'm Megan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dirty Driving. Megan and I decided to talk about Drive to Survive because it's coming out this Friday, March 11th, and we are so excited.
We are so ready for it, whether it's good, bad, terrible, amazing, the greatest Netflix cinematic experience. Probably not, but we're here for whatever it is. And more importantly, we're here to dissect every single moment of it. The good, the bad, the Nikita Mazepin.
And we have our wonderful, wonderful friend, Connor, here.
Hey everyone, Connor. I am popping on for an episode from the Formula Interested Americans, and glad to be on with Megan and Katie.
Yeah, we're so lucky that you're on, and we're so excited to have you for not only this episode, but maybe a couple episodes before the season kicks off. So let's talk about the trailer. What did we think about it?
Initial thoughts. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't watched it. I've been very much on this kick of I'm gonna consume no Drive to Survive content until the day comes, and then I'm gonna watch all of it in 5-6 hours, whatever it takes. I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get my hopes down. So I'm just waiting for it.
Yeah. I, on the other hand, have watched it probably 20 times.
She is just obsessed with the trailer.
Yeah. It's like I'm dissecting every piece of it. I'm like, oh, that's that crash. Oh, that's that incident. Oh, I wrote down like all the interview shots that we saw and who we're going to see talk. And I don't know. I'm excited for it. I feel like I'm most excited for it just because I feel like it's really going to hype me up for this season. It might just be a glorified season review and might just give us everything we already know, but I don't know. It's an interesting piece, and a lot of my friends watch it, and so getting them to talk about it with me versus like maybe they didn't watch the whole season, but they're going to at least watch Drive to Survive and get caught up.
I feel like the best part about the trailer was the fact that it was like this awkward highlight reel of clearly what someone who isn't super into F1 thought was the best moments of the season with some random interviews thrown in. I mean, the part where Pierre Gasly's like, so what are we talking about this year? I literally guffawed. That's the only word. I was like, oh, what do you mean? What are we going to talk about this year? You could just play some of the races and that would be the episode. You don't need commentary. The race would be the episode in the drama. So I'm ready for it. I have a feeling there's going to be, there's no need to have a feeling. The internet's already decided that people love it or hate it. And that's based off of a minute and not even 14 seconds of a trailer.
Yeah, I think it's been funny, the reaction of people to Drive to Survive this year, right? Because while it's been popular for a couple of years, this past year, I feel like, was really like the big one, where we got all of these fans that started joining and reaching out and talking to us, friends that we have that we never thought would be into motorsport, right? That now love Formula One, want to know all about it. And there's been a lot of controversy on forums, Twitter, whatever, where people are saying crazy things about how Drive to Survive is ruining Formula One. And I am very much in the camp of Formula One felt like a dying sport 5 years ago. And now since Drive to Survive has come out, to me, it feels like it's stronger than ever. So I'm excited to see it just because I think it's doing a great job for the sport. It's really bringing new eyes into what, in my opinion, is the most exciting sport on the planet right now. So I'm excited to watch it.
Well,
do you plan to sit down and watch the whole thing back to back? I know you kind of already said it, but like, are you going to start on Friday when it's released?
Well, yeah, we got to prepare for our episode recording, right? So I got to sit down and watch it before we do that.
Yeah, well, spoilers out, we will have a Drive to Survive recap once the three of us have watched the whole season. Probably binge the whole season, texting each other back and forth. Did you see this? Are you on this episode yet?
Do a live stream, right? Just watch through it.
Yeah, we might need to.
I don't know if I should be on camera for some of these episodes. Like, I don't know if I will be throwing things. Like, I will be the next internet meme. Like, I can full on tell you that there's some episodes where I'm like, I should just be left alone with my weighted blanket to like rock in place. Like, just leave me in the basement alone. But I will be done before dinner on Friday.
Oh, too good. Okay, so what we did prepare for this episode were our top 5 things that we want to see covered. So I think I didn't rank mine in any order, but Megan, you want to kick us off with your first one?
Yes. So again, I didn't put mine in any order either, but this is one that I knew from the beginning of, thinking about Drive to Survive that I was really interested in how they were going to cover. And I don't really know there's going to be, I know now there's not going to be a full episode on it, but I'm very intrigued how they're going to talk about sprint races this year. Like, because my understanding of Drive to Survive from when it first came out is that it was teaching people, bringing people into the sport. So I'm going to be fascinated I know that it's going to address Silverstone. I know that's going to happen in an episode about Max and Lewis, but how are they going to articulate sprint races and how they played an impact in that race? Again, there's an episode about Monza. So how are they going to, factor in sprint races there? And then they're going to have to mention them about Brazil. So how is the sprint race going to be explained? Is it even going to be explained, or are we just going to completely pass over the fact that happens?
Yeah, I think that's a good. I didn't think about that at all, to be completely honest. So I think that's actually a great take of are we going to cover them? They don't have a ton of time to talk about things, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of off-track drama. I don't know if they're going to focus as much. Obviously, we're going to get the on-track drama, but I don't know if they're going to focus much on education this year. Connor, what about you?
Yeah,
what's your first one?
Yeah. So again, no particular order. I tried to pick things that maybe were a little bit more, or I should say, I tried to pick things that were a little bit less obvious. Mm-hmm. So, obviously I'm excited to see a lot of things. Brazil, I hope, is an entire episode in and of itself, because that is, I think, the craziest thing that happened in years in Formula One. But the first one that I'm going to pick, I want a full breakdown, and I'm hoping that it's in there. You guys can tell me, because I haven't done my research, of the Hungary race with Ocon's first win. I want to know more about the drama about the Vettel disqualification at the end of the race, and I definitely want to hear from Ocon and the people around Ocon, what that feeling is like, right? Just like the episode with Pierre Gasly. I'm not much of a crier. That one got me close, and I'm thinking that this one might do the same.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to see them focus on just an episode just on Ocon and honestly, the bowling incident too. I would love to see some reactions to that. That's on my list. That was one of mine. Let's just talk about that. Were they pissed off at each other? I don't remember a lot from the aftermath of that. I know that there were a couple comments made about Valtteri, but that was on my list to see.
Honestly, they should just have an episode all about the crashes. Just let's go through all of the crashes and the fallout. Here's one. What happened? 2. Here's what happened.
Be a great episode.
I mean, there are so many. I feel like every year there's so many that you need to dissect. But this year, I felt like there were so many crashes that had such explosive responses. Just like you said, that Brazil needs to be its own episode. I would argue that Jeddah needs to be its own episode. That race, the flags, the penalties, the Max Lewis crash. could be its own, which, I mean, I know we're going to get a lot of Max and Lewis, but one of the things I noted on my top 5 was what happened specifically between Jeddah and Abu Dhabi after the crash, the brake checking, not brake checking, letting around incident. But I don't know if we're going to get that.
Highway event.
What is that, like the turnpike? It's called the turnpike, right?
I mean, you got the turnpike, you got the LIE, you got Cross Bronx. Like, I'll just start naming New York highways if you want me to.
It all happens. It all happens there. Okay, Katie, give us another one of yours.
Okay, another one. Sad moment. Might cry about it. I'll cry if he's gonna cry. But I do want to hear Lando talk about Sochi, and mainly just because I feel like that was probably one of the biggest learning points of the whole season for a driver that I can pick out is what were you thinking, buddy? And I don't know how what's his reaction to it now?
I'm a little worried we won't get enough of Lando in Russia. I don't think we will, because I feel like a lot of Lando talking about Russia came after the season. So I'm like, he just there was just an article about him talking about, that was one of the darkest moments, it was the hardest moment, but that just happened. So I'm like, are they going to leave that out? Are we not going to get Lando in Russia?
Like Katie was just saying, I don't think I want to relive that one. So if they do leave it out, maybe I'm okay with it.
Do you want to relive Belgium though? Do you want to relive Spa?
How about this? Next one on my list is Belgium. So perfect transition here. The next one on my list is Belgium. And eventually I will tell the story of how I was supposed to be at that race and was not. So we'll get there at some point. But what I want to know about Belgium is, we have the whole thing with, the race, the not race, the Lando crash, all this stuff. I want to know about Perez's car and the drama surrounding whether or not Perez was going to be allowed to restart the race, the work that they were doing on the car, how close they were to not getting the car out, or what shape the car was in when they did finally put it back together. I want them to do a Belgium episode, but I want them to focus exclusively on that moment.
Just that moment. You just want exclusively Red Bull garage coverage.
There's 2 hours of Red Bull fixing that car. I want the mechanics mic'd up. I want Perez mic'd up. I want Horner mic'd up. And I want to hear these guys yelling at each other back and forth about, we're fixing the car, we're not fixing the car, what do we need to change? Because, I don't know. I'm a nerd for Formula One, stuff like that, and I feel like being in that room, probably for me, would have been the most interesting part of the entire weekend, if I was there.
Hot take, I want that, but more importantly, I want that so that after the fact, we could do the NFL refs where they do the lip dubbing of what they're actually the lip reading at the end of the season. So yes, I want that for you, but more importantly, I want that for the entertainment factor after.
Let's do it.
That's hilarious.
We'll write a letter.
All right, Megan, what's your next one?
Okay, so I feel like we're talking about, the shit races. So I have on my list, I kind of think, okay, I want more Gunther. I know they're going to do a Haas episode, and I want it to be about Gunther, and I want it to be about him dealing with, having two rookies. I want some Gunther hot takes. I want another, you don't fuck smash my door. But I want it to, I want another one of those moments. I know that there's a picture of him skiing, I think. And there's got to be some hot Gunther takes. So on my list of top 5s is more Gunther Steiner. I love him. I have a big crush on him. I will admit that.
Well, I walked right past Gunther Steiner and didn't even realize it about a month and a half ago.
What?
Yeah, when I was down in Daytona for the
Heart
24.
palpitations.
Yeah, I was walking through the garage, and apparently Gunther Steiner was there, and he went up and had a conversation with Kevin Magnuson. A photo went up a bit later, and we were in a rush to try to get to, one of the races that was going on. So we were in a rush to get to a spot to watch, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's Kevin Magnuson over there. And sure enough, a photo comes up from that moment or slightly thereafter of Kevin Magnuson on this golf cart and Gunther Steiner walking right up to him and having a conversation with him.
Dang.
Sorry, Gunther. Sorry I didn't
Missed
say
out.
You missed it. You should have slid. You should have slid in my phone number. I mean, if he's looking for a second or third wife, I'm interested.
How would the intern feel about that?
He'll get over it. He'll get over it.
Okay, that actually kind of goes with my next one. Like, I'm just gonna bridge the gap here. And now that we know his fate, his future, his whatever, Connor, I know you haven't watched the trailer yet, so there's a lot of Nikita Mazepin in the trailer. And I'm very intrigued on how they frame that story, but more importantly, like his interactions with the team. Like, I think about when his daddy bought him the new chassis and there were like mixed cars, got the better setup. Like, I'm kind of just intrigued for that Haas episode. Again, it's the American team. I feel like we've got to root for them no matter what. But I don't know. I want to know more about all of that now that it's all done.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think it's going to be like a great storyline, but I also am like, whatever. Well, we'll cut that part of it out. We'll cut my response out there, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to say what I was going to say.
So here's, like, how do you? What's weird is this is coming. I'm struggling with words here. I will admit that. Like, how do we frame this? Like, this is literally coming out the week after Nikita Mazepin is cut from the team.
Yeah.
And Ural Kai is literally severed relation. Well, Haas kicked him to the curb. Like, so here we have all of this happening essentially 9-10 days before Netflix puts out an episode that is all about Nikita. And from the rumors online, it seems a little redemption-y-ish. And so I'm like,
I'll be interested to see if they go back and like add in, because like they still have time to edit. So like I'm just curious if they'll go back and add like, when they have the black screen with like the white letters over it, and it's like Nikita Mazepin has now has now been released by the Haas team. Like, are they going to make any mention of it? Are they going to go back, or are they just going to leave it? And that's kind of why I'm like, how is there a whole episode about this, and what are you doing with it? Yeah.
And, I've had some time over the last 48 hours now to think about my thoughts on, the whole Mazepin situation. And, I think there was a lot of reasons why he should have been kicked out of the car. I'm not necessarily sure what's happened in the last few days is really the reason why he shouldn't be in the seat. I'm wondering if this will change that view for me at all. I don't think it will. I'm not sure it will impact it that much, but maybe we'll learn more about the financial situation as to how he got into the seat, right? And if we learn that he got in there because he was bringing $50 million a year, and maybe in the future it comes out that whoever gets a seat, whether it's Fittipaldi or somebody else, brings that same amount of cash, then it's like, okay, well, he was bringing nothing, and we have somebody else who's going to bring us more money instead. I guess that makes sense for them from a financial standpoint, but it's a weird time for them to be taking a stand to kick him out of the seat when there was so many other things, so many other reasons to not promote Nikita Mazepin from, actual talent all the way down to what he posts on Instagram in his spare time.
It has been very interesting. In fact, I one of the things I noted, but technically isn't on my top 5, is if Netflix will actually reckon with, acknowledge, even have the conversation about the sexual assaults, the Instagram comments, his behavior on track with Callum Illitt. Like, do we talk about, or not we, do they talk about those things? Or is it just going to truly be focused on Mazepin in his time with Haas? Which I guess technically in his time with Haas was when, you know, the sexual assault happened. It was it was posted about. Because it was 9 days after he got the contract. I'm very interested to see how they're going to handle this, and very interested to see if they are going to acknowledge the fact that now he is no longer in that seat, and more importantly, are we going to know like, when are we going to know who's taking his spot? Because the time is ticking. We have like a couple of days. Okay. Next one. I have McLaren on my list, but not McLaren Monza. I intentionally wrote on here, I know we're going to get Monza. We've known that since like the week after Monza. But I put on here, how is Netflix going to frame the first half of the season where we saw Daniel Ricciardo struggling? You know, we saw him like out-qualify Lando in the first race. Then we saw Daniel Ricciardo struggle. We saw Lando have success. Like, how are they going to frame that? Is it going to be the, like, you know, veteran driver comes on and they expect him to do wonders, but then, you know, we have the young rookie who's not really a rookie, but like the young driver outperforming? Like, is it going to be that like classic story that Netflix has gone with, or is it going to be something different? I think it's going to be the classic story.
I think they love Daniel Ricciardo so much that they won't talk about him struggling.
Interesting.
He is their
celebrity.
Yeah, he's their Leo DiCaprio, right? They need to keep him happy.
Yeah.
I think that's,
I don't know,
not a hot take, actually. That's a spot on take about them, actually. I didn't think about that. He is their Leo.
Happy.
I'm gonna make a mental note of that.
All right, Connor, what's your next one?
So my next one, pivoting from the previous American team to hopefully a new American team, I want to hear about the Alfa Romeo stuff. I want to know about Andretti trying to buy them. How close was Colton Herta to being in that car at the end of the season if they were able to purchase the team? And what did all that maneuvering look like behind the scenes? And what do the other teams think about somebody like Andretti coming into F1? You know, we're getting some stuff coming out, Toto maybe not being super happy about it, but I would love to see what was going on, 3-4 months ago when this idea first came to light and what people's initial reactions were.
I think that would be a great insight into the business side of Formula One that Drive to Survive often doesn't show.
Yeah, a completely new perspective on all the negotiations that happen behind the scene that we just really hear rumors about. I like that one. That's a good take as well.
Showing up without the research, but showing up no research, giving the hot take.
It's also bringing us good ideas.
All right, is this our last one, or do we have two more each? I think we might have two more each, but I want to talk about, and I know there's probably going to be at least a full episode on it, but George Russell and Valtteri, like that whole, not only the Imola run-in and how they responded to it, but also George moving to Merc, Valtteri moving to Alfa Romeo. Like, how did that play out? I did hear a rumor that there were some staged contract signings that were recorded. So I don't know. Give me more of the nitty gritty details of that. And I want to see how they frame it.
I'll just say I co-sign that. That is also on my list. And I did add a little asterisk, and I say, how are they going to frame the Imola crash as part of the Valtteri Bottas George Russell rivalry. Because you know it's going to be part of the storyline.
And I think, like we were just talking about with the last one, there's going to be some really interesting business side revelations that could come from an episode like that. Because in this situation, George Russell is driving for Williams. He is part of the Mercedes Driver Academy, and Toto Wolff is his agent, right? So with all of that being said, Valtteri Bottas is in the Mercedes car, but was never part of the Mercedes driver program. Toto is not his agent. So how do these relationships, how do these pieces of politicking play into place with whether Bottas is going to get the contract, whether George is going to get the contract? And that, I think, is going to have some really awesome and interesting insights if they can do that coverage its justice.
I also just want them to acknowledge that it was like the worst kept secret of 2021. Like, I just want them to like finally, really, truthfully just be like, we did a horrible job of keeping this a secret. Like, that is what I would like Mercedes to just acknowledge. They won't, but I would like them to.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Connor, do you have one more or two more?
Yeah. So the next one I have is similar, I think, to Bottas versus it's
Russell.
similar to Bottas versus George Russell, is the decision between Guan Yu Zhou, Piastri, and the other names that we heard swirling as potential replacements for Italian Jesus at Alfa Romeo. I think that there's, again, like we were just talking about, business side interest that could come out of that, but also general growth strategy for the sport, right? I think that there is some conversation about Guan Yu Zhou coming in as the first Chinese driver, what that's going to do to get F1 into a market that they don't really play in that strongly right now outside of having a race there in normal years. Obviously right now, not having a race in China, but it will be interesting to see what his impact is on viewership for Formula One in that part of the world, and whether or not this was a conversation that a team like Sauber was having behind the scenes. Do they think, oh, we'll get more advertisements, we'll get more sales of our merchandise, we will have more social media engagement, because now we are the only team that really has any sort of a Chinese influence in one of these, spotlight roles, right?
Yeah, and I think something for this season is what kind of sponsorships are going to come out of that. That's something that has been on my intrigue list since that announcement came out.
I would be really interested to see if/how they pair the Andretti talks with that conversation about who is going to take Italian Jesus' spot. Because I think from reading between the lines, the rumor mill, we have no idea really. I think, the lack of control that Andretti was going to have about the decision there might have played a role. So I think those conversations, like having all of that sitting together in an episode, would really be illuminating for new fans, but also for, fans who follow the sport to really actually see how are these decisions made? Because we know the decisions eventually, and we know the official line, but what is actually happening and how is that negotiation of control actually going down? A window into that would be cool. Okay, Katie, I'm going to give you my last one. And I was hesitant to put this on my list. But we all have got to face the fact that this is going to play a role. So we know that Max and Lewis are going to be a part of it a lot. But I am not so much interested in the Max and Lewis title fight. I'm interested in how Netflix is going to characterize like Max, Lewis, Toto, Christian, like how they're going to bucket the people and who's going to be the villain, who's going to be the hero, are they all going to be villains? Are they all going to be heroes? what role is Senator Palpatine going to be? Obviously the villain. If they make him a hero, I'll boycott Netflix. I just will be fascinating to see how they actually take the storyline, all of the interviews, the lack of Max Verstappen's interviews, and then tell the story, which we all saw basically live out in the headlines and saw already dramatized. So that is a big undertaking and will be something that I cannot wait to see how they essentially wrestle the beast.
I think that they're going to make Toto and Mercedes the redeemable evil, and then they're going to turn Red Bull into the good guys that you reluctantly root for, or the bad guys you reluctantly root for. It's like it's going to be this David versus Goliath thing, which is silly because Red Bull is absolutely a Goliath, and they're going to have these sort of things of neither one of them is good, neither one of them is bad. You choose which one you want to root for.
Yeah.
And that will be fascinating.
That was my last point, was the framing of the story. I saw probably the funniest tweet about Drive to Survive so far, and it was, the unexpected rivalry in Drive to Survive will be Susie Wolf versus Jerry Horner, because there are clips of both of them in the teaser, and I'm like, are we pitting them against each other? Is it wife versus wife? Or is it just part of the team principal battle? I don't know. That was I was surprised to see, their faces in the teaser.
Connor, they should make them settle it on track.
Connor, I need to let you know, and I need to mentally prepare you for something because I saw it yesterday. From my understanding, there is going to be more Ginger Spice than Kimi Räikkönen.
Let's go.
There's more ginger. More ginger than Kimi, and I'm just like, wowzas.
I'm a huge Spice Girls fan, so
good thing you're gonna get a lot of it. A lot of Spice Girl, apparently. I think we should start referring to Christian Horner as Media Spice. I've decided that.
Media Spice.
Worse.
He's always willing to take an interview, which apparently there's
true.
a lot of those.
That's true.
Okay, what's your last one, Connor?
So my last one is Fernando Alonso returning to Formula One with the culmination of Qatar. And I want them to do the episode where it ends and get your hopes up that Alonso is going to come back into the ring and win the championship this year. Regardless of whether that's going to happen, that is the energy that I want to take into 2022, people. I want this. I want this so bad.
El Plan. We want to hear about El Plan.
My first race that I ever watched for Formula One, Alonso won. I became a fan of Fernando Alonso, which is why I became a fan of Ferrari. And now it's the only thing that I want is for this man to win his championship that he has deserved for a long time. For a long time. I'm getting really choked up, you guys.
This is the energy we needed. This is not the wine. This is not the wine at all.
No, this is just me being crazy.
Okay, I've got... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say that I really, I really think there's a great storyline around Fernando Alonso, and it would really be a shame if they didn't do him, justice by covering his story, talking about, what he was doing for the last couple of years, being out of Formula One, why he decided to come back into it, and, get my hopes irrationally up for this season.
Well, fingers crossed for Alonso hype up with El Plan. All right, I have one more question for you guys because I found a quote that kind of ties into it. But Do we think this season of Formula One, of Drive to Survive, excuse me, is going to bring more followers into the sport, or do we feel like we're coming to a point where it's just all this drama and it's making the sport seem much more drama filled than it maybe actually is?
I think with every show like this, you look at things like Hard Knocks, they run their course and they create sort of this explosive growth for a while, and then people start to tune out. I don't think we're there yet. I think especially after the drama that happened at the end of the season, I had a few friends that I got to watch the last, 2 or 3 races of the year. And now they're like, I want to know more about this. They've been doing research in the off season. So I think that coming out of what happened last year, they're going to see their most viewed season ever. I think that the start of this year is going to be the most viewed beginning to a season of all time. Next year, unless this season with the new cars is just insane, next year I feel like is when we'll start to see maybe a little bit of a dip where it's starting to wear out its course. And I think we started to see that already with some of the comments made this week by Domenicali, where, he's saying they may have to change what they're doing, how they're doing their coverage for it to continue in Formula One and continue on Netflix. And, it might be a good thing. It might be a good thing that they start to change up the strategy of what they're covering a little bit and maybe make it a little bit more serious, as the fans that started with it for the drama are now getting hooked into the racing for the more serious parts of Formula One.
I definitely think that this will 100% be the most watched season of Drive to Survive. And depending on how this season goes, will be the deciding factor of the change. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix itself in the next year and a half changes the format of how they're releasing television shows. As we keep moving through, whatever progress of streaming services we're going and into whatever comes next as we go towards more new short formats. Apparently TikTok's going to have like 1.5-hour long videos. Like, there might come a point in the next 2 years where Netflix just genuinely stops putting out like full-length documentaries and they go to like short mini episodes where, it is like a 30-minute episode and they're putting those out, during the season. Whatever format comes in the future, I think will be paired with whatever Netflix's business strategy is at that time. And honestly, I do think you are right that at some point they will have to ratchet back the drama and go back to it being more about, or they might make that intentional decision, like, we hooked everyone in with the drama. We're not going to get rid of the drama because it's there, but we're going to ratchet it down and make it a little bit more about, what are the cars? Go back to more of the technical meat and potatoes of what Formula One is. I could see that happening, but the format, totally changing. Has to, because by then Netflix could be something else by then. We could all be in the meta by then.
Oh,
we could be watching Formula One and Drive to Survive, whatever it might look like in the metaverse.
I mean, that's where we're headed.
Could you imagine watching a Formula One race on a VR headset where you are in the car with someone? I mean, I'd probably barf, but that also sounds awesome.
I would 100% barf. No doubt. The VR headsets make me nauseous. I can't do them. I'm not going to survive the metaverse. I can't do it.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our Drive to Survive preview. Keep an eye out for our Drive to Survive review. It'll probably come out shortly after all of us binge watch on March 11th. Connor, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us at Dirty Driving Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Until next time, stay dirty.